Booker T. Washington. In 1856, Washington was born into slavery in Virginia as the son of Jane, an African-American slave. After emancipation, she moved with the family to West Virginia to join her husband, Washington Ferguson. West Virginia had seceded from Virginia and joined the Union as a free state during the Civil War. As a young man, Booker T. Washington worked his way through Hampton, Normal and Agricultural Institute, Historical Black College, now Hampton University, and attended college at Wayland Seminary, now Virginia Union University. In 1881, the young Washington, named as the first leader of the new Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, funded for the higher education of blacks, he developed the college from the ground up, enlisting students in construction of buildings, from classrooms to dormitories. Work at the college was considered fundamental to students' larger education. They maintained a large farm to be essentially self-supporting, rearing animals and cultivating needed produce. Washington continued to expand the school. He attained national prominence for his Atlanta address of 1895, which attracted the attention of politicians and the public. He became a popular spokesman for African American citizens. He built a nationwide network of supporters in many black communities, with black ministers, educators, and businessmen composing his core supporters. Washington played a dominant role in black politics, winning wide support in the black community of the South and among more liberal whites, especially rich northern whites. He gained access to top national leaders in politics, philanthropy, and education. Washington's efforts included cooperating with white people and enlisting the support of wealthy philanthropists. Washington had asserted that the surest way for blacks to attain equal social rights was to demonstrate industry, thrift, intelligence, and property. Beginning in 1912, he built a relationship with philanthropist Julius Rosenwald, who served on the board of trustees for the rest of his life and made substantial donations to Tuskegee. In addition, they collaborated on a pilot program for Tuskegee's architects to design 6 model schools that could be built for African American students in rural areas of the South. These were historically underfunded by the state and local governments. Given their success in 1913 and 1914, Rosenwald established the Rosenwald Foundation in 1917 to support the school's effort in expanding, improving, or providing rural schools by giving matching funds to communities that committed to operate the schools and provided funds for construction and maintenance. With cooperation of white public schools boards, required nearly 5,000 new small rural schools were built to improve education for blacks throughout the South, most after Washington's death in 1915. Northern critics called Washington's widespread and powerful organization the Tuskegee Machine. After 1909, Washington was criticized by the leaders of the new NAACP, especially W.E.B. Du Bois, who demanded a stronger tone of protest in order to advance the civil rights agenda. Washington replied that confrontation would lead to disaster for the outnumbered blacks in society, and that cooperation with supportive whites was the only way to overcome pervasive racism in the long run. At the same time, he secretly funded litigation for civil rights cases such as challenges to Southern constitutions, and laws that had disenfranchised blacks across the South since the turn of the century. African Americans were still strong affiliated with the Republican Party, and Washington was close terms with the National Republican Party leaders. He was often asked for political advice by President Theodore Roosevelt and William Howard Taft. In addition to his contributions in education, Washington wrote 14 books. His autobiography, Up from Slavery, first published in 1901, is still widely read today. During a difficult period of transition, he did much to improve the working relationship between the races. His work greatly helped blacks to achieve education, financial power, and understanding of U.S. legal system. This contributed to blacks attaining the skills to create and support the civil rights movement, leading to the passage in the late 20th century of important federal civil rights laws. Despite his extensive travels and widespread work, Washington continued as principal of Tuskegee. Washington's health was deteriorating rapidly in 1915. He collapsed in New York City and was diagnosed by 2 different doctors as having Bright's disease, related to kidney disease. Told he only had a few days left to live, Washington expressed a desire to die at Tuskegee. He boarded a train and arrived in Tuskegee shortly after midnight on November 14, 1915. He died a few hours later at the age of 59. He was buried on the campus of Tuskegee University near the University Chapel. At the time, he was thought to have died of congestive heart failure aggravated by overwork. In March 2006, his descendants permitted examination of medical records. These showed he had hypertension with a blood pressure more than twice the normal, confirming what had long been suspected. At Washington's death, Tuskegee's endowment was close to $2 million. Washington's greatest life's work, the education of blacks in the South, was well underway and expanding. So that was just a little quick biography of this great African American leader and American leader who rose to high prominence in a very tough time. It's an honor to be able to come here and pay respects to Booker T. Washington. And I heard a story about this headstone. They talk about how the headstone is rough because he was kind of rough and abrasive with people and did not accept mediocrity. But he was a very good orator and was very smooth when talking and was able to get people to donate money to Tuskegee. And so the rough headstone kind of said something about his personality, but the smooth Washington kind of supposed to say something about how smooth he was at talking and getting things done the way he thought he needed doing. Right back behind the grave, right there, is George Washington Carver. They're buried about 50 feet from each other, which I thought was pretty cool. Tuskegee Cemetery. More than 8,000 people, white and colored, rich and poor, from the lowest farm and the richest Fifth Avenue mansion, crowded in and around the school chapel to pay homage to Booker T. Washington. The bodies of Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, and several other former members of Tuskegee faculty and staff and their families are buried here in the school cemetery. The university president determines who is buried here. Booker T. Washington II, sleeping peacefully and sweetly in the arms of Jesus. May 29, 1887 to February 5th, 1945. Wife of Booker T. Washington, born 1854 and died in 1889. She lived in the truth. I can see her name. A bunch of Washingtons. This here's another wife of Booker T. Washington. Fanny Norton, I think.